Hiya nerds, we're looking at a full run of Daredevil comic books, so 1 through 500 and whatever. So we've looked at number 1, we've looked at some of the other big issues like number 7 where he gets his red suit, we've looked at, first appearance of Purple Man and all those. We've looked at the stretch where it becomes a team-up comic, Black Widow and Daredevil, so those are fun. And so we just finished that, and so we're in this strange little period that I'm going to show you now. Alright, so I mentioned this is a funky little period. So Daredevil was named Daredevil and the Black Widow up until issue 107. So 108, it goes back to the Daredevil name, but Black Widow, she has not disappeared from the comic. But this also shows you at this era, I mean, look at this, the Beetle. Daredevil had quite a rogues gallery, some really good stuff. The Beetle being one of them. The Beetle was reimagined for the Thunderbolts, actually. So here's 109. You see Black Widow still in there, and this well-dressed girl there is giving her a tough time. Here's number 10. And again, co-starring the Daily Black Widow. She's still part of it, but it's not named Black Widow, Daredevil and Black Widow. It's just Daredevil still. But look at the swashbuckling. Look, the she-devil there. I mean, that's interesting. So here is 112. Black Widow is back. The Mandro, which was a fun little character. Gladiator was a recurring villain in Daredevil comics. So the Gladiator would often appear, one of the main rogues in Daredevil's early rogues gallery, I would say. Marvel loves their characters to show up in other titles, so here's the Man-Thing. Here's the Death Stalker that will show up. Here's 116. This has the Owl. Now, the Owl was the Kingpin before the Kingpin was the Kingpin, right? So the Kingpin did not show up in Daredevil comics till really late in the run. I think everyone just assumes, because of what because of modern Daredevil, particularly what we see on TV, is that Kingpin was the original villain of Daredevil. Not even close. It was the Owl who was the Kingpin of crime. Mind Tap, kind of a forgettable villain there. Circus, which is always good for this era, which was swashbuckling. Here's the Crusher in 119. Sadly, my 119 is a little beat up. Here is 120, and this is a really cool cover, I think, for, it's like the edge of the building. I love this perspective. Look at that. El Jaguar has Black Widow's hair. He's pulling her out the window. What is going on? That is just a gruesome, but also really fun and a neat perspective on that cover. Here is Foggy Nelson, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What is going on there? Then we have 122, again, the El Jaguar. This is a cover that I don't recall. 5 supervillains. I couldn't name them if I had to. This is in the clutches of the Copperhead. That's 124. But again, you can see just even the trade dress of these Daredevils. Black Widow was still in there. I just love the look of these old Daredevil comics. They were great, actually. All right, I'll move those out of the way, and we'll do 125. Take a look at that. 126, the Triumph of the Torpedo. That was, and again, back in those days, the Rogues Gallery was a lot of fun. Daredevil. Now, notice what's interesting here. Black Widow is gone now. Now, one of the great loves was Daredevil and Black Widow, and a lot of people forget that era of Daredevil. They don't realize how integral Black Widow was in Daredevil's life. They were a couple for the longest time in the comics, and they in fact moved to San Francisco together and lived together in the 70s, which was something that was unheard of in our culture, living together before marriage. but they did it in the comics. And then when they broke up, that's when the Black Widow joined the Champions and became the leader of the Champions. It was during this run where the Black Widow really became fleshed out as a character, and she would often, even in the Champions, when she dated Hercules and that, she would say that Matt Murdock was her love. And so that was always, the Man Bull was always a fun villain. Now what a beautiful cover here. And so this is, well, not beautiful, creepy, but that skeleton is fun. That's Daredevil 130. And here is Daredevil 131. Now, this will look familiar to you. This is the first appearance of Bullseye. So this is quite a valuable comic, and a lot of people might not know when Bullseye was introduced in Daredevil, but this was the very first appearance of Bullseye in comic books in Daredevil 131. And I love it when the second appearance is right after it. So here's 132, second appearance of Bullseye. And again, the big top, because at this time that Daredevil had not yet met Frank Miller, who turned him into a depressive. He was more of a swashbuckling hero at this time. 133, 134, 135. The Jester was one of the rogues, and here he is again. Here is 137, 138, and here's Karen Page. She is back in the title at this point. Oh, and look, Ghost Rider coming through. Now, Ghost Rider would have been, I think, still in the Champions at this time. So here's 139. Here is 140. And again, the Beetle back. All right, let's clear these to make room for 141. You can see how Bullseye was becoming one of the primary villains in the Daredevil title, because there he has showed up again. Mr. Hyde was another one of the rogues. I always loved the Serpent Society and those characters. I always thought they were great. 143. 144. Here's Man Bull again. 145. The Owl. And again, he would always be pulling the strings. Look, here it is. Again, introduced in 131. Here he is for the fourth time on the cover on 146. So he was quickly becoming one of the primary rogues. Here's the Deathstalker, which we saw again. Here is 149. And this is another key issue. This is the first appearance of Paladin. And Paladin would go on to appear in a lot of Spider-Man titles, but he was introduced in Daredevil. So Daredevil 150 to be exact. Here's Daredevil 151. 152. Again, Central Park. He's back in New York at this time. Here's Mr. Hyde again. And look here. I think this is a fun Jester, Hyde, Cobra, Gladiator, and the command of the Purple Man. So the Purple Man was introduced in Daredevil 3. Here is 155. Hercules, the Avengers. Again, the Champions at this time was a title that was running concurrently with Daredevil. Look at this. What's going on here? Daredevil battles the original Daredevil? How can that be? And we're going to end on 157. In our next video, we'll begin at 158, and I'll explain why we're ending at 157 and beginning at 158, because that is a significant turning point in Daredevil as a character. All right, nerds, there you have it. So on Wednesdays, we like to do runs. So on Saturdays is usually a bit of a mixed bag. I'll share, comics from all over the place. I love Marvel Age Bronze. Marvel Age Bronze? Bronze Age Marvel? That's better. First try, nailed it. So on Saturdays, it's a little bit all over the place. On Wednesdays, I try to do runs, and because it's 500 issues of Daredevil, I won't show you all. but wanted to do these key issues in an era that a lot of people forget about. This really late 70s, early 80s Daredevil, or all 70s maybe. I don't know if it got into the 80s yet. You can let me know in the comments if any of these got into the 80s. But some great covers, some great Daredevil comics, and we will do this next Wednesday. All right, take care.